Hi there, this is Anthony Gordon, Artist Relations for Avid, coming at you from NAMM 2013, and I'm here with my main man, Greg Wells. Hey Greg, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you? How are you holding up?
I'm good. I'm getting a little bit loopy towards the end of the day here. Listening to a lot of music all at the same time. But it's cool. I hear a lot of interesting stories, meet a lot of interesting producers and customers. So that part's pretty cool. So for those of you who don't know, Greg is gifted with perfect pitch, which he claims is not a gift, but something he learned.
Curse.
He's a producer, a songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist. He's worked with Adele, he's worked with Katy Perry, he's worked with Mika, just tons and tons of wonderful, wonderful artists. And it's a pleasure to have you here in our booth, so thanks for coming by.
Thank you so much.
You and I were in London a couple weeks ago at Abbey Road Studios working on a project together. Can you tell us a little bit about the session we did there?
That was a pretty amazing experience. And I was pretty, in a healthy way, nervous going into it because I hadn't worked with the band before. We'd had a few meetings over Skype and over the phone, and I picked one of their songs that I really loved. So at least I knew we had that much kind of on lockdown. But we went in and just hit the ground running and recorded this beautiful song called Tell Me.
The band's called Strange Fruit, by the way.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, Strange Fruit. And really, really talented band. And everybody in the band was so good at what they did, which helped the whole process enormously. And then, it really is... It is the best recording studio on the planet. It's also the oldest recording studio on the planet, which I didn't know that. It was, they opened it in 1931, so I guess they've been building it for, maybe it started in 1929, 1930. And, if you're a Beatles fan, which if anyone's recording modern music, it's impossible not to be a Beatles fan. We were in the room where they did most of their records, Studio 2. So the lore of we were all geeking out, including the band themselves. It's like recording, it's like being in Mecca, basically,
Mecca's Mecca?
Yes.
Sorry.
Wow, that was fast.
Thanks.
And our engineer, Chris, was fantastic, which also really put me at ease once I realized that was going on. And we had a great time.
Was there one piece of gear that you got to work with at Abbey Road that stood out to you, like got to be a little mind-blowing?
Hell yes. I can't get over it, and you can't get it because they're not for sale. The EMI Console is like this famous kind of mystical holy grail console where the volume faders kind of look like, they're on a jet airplane. And there's a few different versions of it. There was a Mark III, which I think is the latest version that they made of it. It's called the TG Mark III console. And there was a 16-channel version of it in the room that we were mixing in, which had a massive SSL console in it, but this thing was kind of off to the side. And it was all plugged into the patch bay. And I just started looking at it and going, I've heard so much about these consoles, and actually the console that I own, Undertone Audio, made by Eric Valentine and his team, is based on the fabled EMI console. Right. And had a huge reason for me kind of, I want to know what that is, and I want to hear it, and then I wound up being Eric's first customer. So I'm looking at like one of the original things, and I just thought, what happened if we put the kick drum through it? So we tried that. We matched the levels with the kick drum we'd already recorded, and then just hearing it just going through a strip, no EQ, no compression, nothing, just the exact same level as, and we kept going back and forth between what we recorded and then it going through this magical beast, and it was like, as the English say, it was gobsmacking. Yeah. It was like jaw-dropping. And then I said, okay, well, what about the snare? And we had the same reaction. What about the toms? What about everything?
Yeah, what about everything? Every single thing we can put on there.
Including the vocals.
Yeah.
The only thing that we thought didn't win was the bass guitar, which I was a bit surprised by, actually. So we kept the original bass sound that we got, and the vibe, it's just unbelievable what it did.
Yeah. Amazing place. For those of you watching this, we here at Avid have gotten into a partnership with Abbey Road, and we've got a bunch of fun stuff coming up that we've done with them, including the session that Greg and I are talking about here, where we worked with this band and produced a track, and we're going to show people how to basically track, record, and mix a song. Series of tutorials, Greg producing. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be really cool. You'll hear much more great geeky in the woods production techniques from this. I think you're going to dig. One of the other things that we're doing with Abbey Road is we're running a contest that just was announced today, where musicians can send in their song, and then they can win a chance to have their song mixed and mastered at Abbey Road, as well as winning some great Avid recording gear, some HD Native rig. You're one of the judges for this contest. So can you tell the audience out there what you're going to be listening for to pick what you think is the best track that deserves to get mixed and mastered at Abbey Road?
I'm always interested in things that don't sound like other things. I like kind of bold, original storytelling, and I like a sense of surprise. I like a sense of humor. I don't like it when things are too serious and kind of like, when it's too much of one thing. I think it sort of loses the. It's hard to explain. It's
the je ne sais quoi?
Yeah. An old girlfriend of mine once said something so brilliant, and she wasn't a musician, but she said, you got to leave some holes sometimes in the music, because that's how people get into the music. It's like if it's all just kind of this wall coming at you, then it's off-putting. So just something original, something that, I always encourage everybody, even when I'm working with them, producing their records in my studio, I say, don't overthink this. Yeah. Let this come from a place that's not coming from, conscious sort of logical thought. Let it kind of like come through you. And that's usually the most interesting stuff. When it's not trying to be something, you just like wait for a great idea, and then if it appears, then chase that. I hope that doesn't sound too Lord of the Rings. I mean, be brave. Be brave.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk just in general a little bit about your take on music technology. Things have changed so much since obviously we both got involved in music as kids. Home recording, MIDI, all these things that were not available, as when we were young. What's your thoughts on the future of music technology, where it's going, and where you'd like to see it go as a musician and as a producer?
I got into a really interesting talk the other day talking about that video that came out of Germany where the robots are playing a Motorhead song. Have you seen that?
No.
It's hilarious.
Robots playing Motorhead?
I think they're playing Ace of Spades.
Yeah.
And it sounds terrible, but they are playing the song. But
Yeah.
visually, it's hilarious, and they got like millions of hits within a couple of days. You should check it out. But so the question was, do you think at some point we're going to all be replaced by robots? And I found myself answering like, well, in a way, like we're already, we're way using robots to make music in a sense, because it's just you program a machine to do something. It's coming from an idea. We are still at this point the originator of these ideas, and maybe we'll get to a point where you can just say, I want, you'll just speak to a screen and say, I want to hear something that sounds like this, and after a week of doing that, the software knows what you like and don't like, and then, however my real point was to this person, it doesn't matter how you get to the finish line, whether you are a complete geek like me who's got years of classical piano study. I know way too much about music. I am cursed with this pitch thing, which is it's handy in the studio, but outside of the studio it makes my eyes cross. Or some kid who winds up having a hit on the radio who can't play a middle C on a piano and wouldn't even care to do that, and sampled somebody else's track and has no talent, but has this aesthetic sense of like, I'm going to put something together that's kind of cool, and if people like it, then they like it, then it sounds good. So some of my favorite record producers don't play any instruments, don't
Sure.
know how to plug a guitar cable into a guitar. So, in a sense, the advance of technology has allowed people with much lower talent levels to come up with something that sounds good or pretty good, but it's still down to like a really killer idea.
Yeah.
Whether you got a PhD or whether you're 5 years old and you got lucky on GarageBand, whatever it is, it's like the idea is always going to be king, I think.
Yeah. Boy, that's something nice to hear from a guy could be a concert classical pianist to a musician who might be intimidated and think maybe I can't make records because I'm not a classical pianist and I'm not technically trained in that, but you still have good ideas. It is nice to hear that you have a lot of respect for the spirit of music or the uniqueness of it, not just performance or not just musicianship.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm always, really, I look at my favorite record producers. Some of them are really amazing musicians, but, I can think of people, take Rick Rubin. Rick is one of my favorite record producers.
Yeah.
Rick has made amazing records for years and years and years, and he will be the first one to tell you, like, I'm not a musician really. It's all about taste. And movie direction, and whatever he's doing, works, and I love. So this is all. I was just saying this to somebody over there, just saying how hard it is to put your finger on any of this stuff. It's like, where is it? Where is it? I don't see it. I can't feel it. You just have to be insane enough to keep trudging towards this thing, and I've had to forget most of my music training. It hasn't helped me make great records. It's helped me in certain areas of it. If someone plays a wrong note in a chord, I could be sitting here speaking with you, and if I hear the wrong note, I know what the wrong note is, and I know who played it, and I can just say, don't play an F there, that should be an E or whatever. Yeah. So, it's I can troubleshoot really fast that way. But in terms of content, coming up with like, really, is this moving, is this compelling? I don't know if it's helped me at all. I can't say at all, but it's definitely not. When something comes through me that winds up having a life and, connecting with other people, I usually feel like I had very little or sometimes nothing to do with it. So what does that say about? I don't know what it says. I'm a huge fan of education, and ignorance is not bliss. Yeah. And I wouldn't change having all this training for anything, but I'm humbled by how many different paths there are to getting to a killer record.
Yeah, almost infinite, really. Well, Greg, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us here at NAMM, and stay tuned. We're gonna have so much more fun stuff with Greg from Abbey Road on Pensato's place, where we just did a taping here in the booth. Greg, it was really a pleasure as always to see you.
Thank you so much.
Keep checking us out here, and we'll have more for you from NAMM 2013.